You are listening to the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. Race 92 is a vintage-inspired racing apparel brand specializing in celebrating vintage race culture and adapting to motorsports today. Check out race92.com for all your racing merchandise needs. I'm your co-host, Aaron Mack. Other co-host, you may have seen walking out of Barber Lounge 459 with a big old smile on his face. You may have seen him at a dirt track. He is Scott Bowie.
Hey, Aaron, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. So we had a pretty good, successful Chili Bowl live stream preview show Saturday night. I did go to McGilvery's Pub and Eatery afterwards. Everyone had left at that point because they had some issues getting the race on the TV. We were literally talking to Donnie Beechler, and he was trying to cast the race from his phone. The 1995 Chili Bowl winner trying to cast the Chili Bowl off his phone.
Yeah, I believe according to you, they got that fixed. I mean, when Mav came on and everybody was able to watch it. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm sure that won't happen again. But it really was a good Chili Bowl show. We had Robbie McGee, Jimmy Kite, the great Donnie Beechler. We had my nephew, Chris Bowie. We had,
last but not least,
friend of the show,
the
Indy
man,
Next driver,
the myth, the legend,
Jagger Jones, who was in town, who had been in town that week doing some media stuff for Indy Next. So he and I watched the Chili Bowl a couple of times together, the prelims, and then he drove home and then jumped on so he could watch the feature or do the show. Then he watched the feature later on. So thank you to everyone that participated. It was a good time. Had a lot of fun.
absolutely. Great time as always, and it was. I think I liked the format that we did. It worked out and we didn't really plan when people. We did a little bit, but people just kind of popped on the right time, and it really worked out pretty well.
Yeah, our apologies to Pat Sullivan, who we had asked to be on. I think there was a little bit of a kind of a miscommunication in the time. And he thought we were going to be on a little bit later than we were or something. I don't know. So apologize to Pat. He was going to give us a live update from the Chili Bowl, but our show ended at 8 and he attempted to call us at 8:30. So sorry, Pat.
Yeah, sorry about that, Pat. But next year we'll plan ahead a little better. So my apologies on that. Couple shout outs to some sponsors real quick. First off, Fast Times Indoor Karting. We will be doing some more videos there. We have a couple planned in February, so we still have another video I have to release, so we'll work on that as well. Working on a couple things with them. But thanks to them for letting us do the videos. And please, if you're looking to have some fun in the Indianapolis area racing go-karts and you want to know kind of what it's like to be a professional driver, what it takes, please go to Fast Times Indoor Karting. Also, Racer Collect, Patrick Patton, great friend of the show. Racer Collect, really great, business he's got going on there, selling racing memorabilia. Please check them out. If you have anything to sell, contact Patrick and I'll be happy to help you out. And man, it's not as cold as it was, but it's still cold.
It is cold. Furnace has been running a little bit, and it has been running thanks to the good folks at Good Guys here in the Indianapolis area. They definitely take care of me. They take care of my family. So thank you to them. And if anybody needs any type of service or just maintenance, please look them up and give them a call.
Absolutely. So before we get in, there's a few news stories, but first off, so the episode we are releasing today is with Eleanor Vogler. Eleanor, just an amazing human being. I mean, she's 90, around 90, 91, yes. And she still works. I mean, she works for the U.S. Census, and she's just she texts. She was texting with me. She has an iPhone, so very impressive for her age, and very definitely has her memory completely there, and very just very talkative and just witty and just great person to talk to. And like you've said before, she went through more than just about anyone could ever imagine. So and she's really turned loss into about, I mean, as good as you can make it, right? With making the scholarship for Rich Vogler, and yeah, it was a really good interview.
Yeah, it's so weird how you can be around in the general vicinity of someone for so many years and never really talk to them or not know them, and it was such a pleasure to finally get to meet with her, talk with her. She reminded me so much of my mom,
Hmm.
just in her determination and her drive, and she just has that grit that generation did. So I really enjoyed talking to her. It's a pretty short interview, but I could have talked to her for hours and hours, and she did share a couple stories about Rich and herself and Don, her late husband, and I'm just very grateful we had the chance to talk with her. And of course, she is. They set up the Rich Vogler Scholarship Fund not long after Rich's passing, and they've kind of revived it. I don't know if it was completely dormant, but she is 91,
Hmm.
and it's hard for her to do things like she used to be able to do. But I think the Throckmortons have come along and become more of a presence to try to help along with others. So um, again, I can't speak highly enough of her. And After speaking with her, I see where Rich got his drive and determination from.
Absolutely, and I will say, and like we said, the Throckmortons are helping put this event on. It's going to be February 19th. They are bringing back the Rich Vogler Scholarship Party. I don't know what the actual name. I think it's Rich Vogler Scholarship, like Daytona Party or something along those lines. It will be at Raceway Park, I believe in the Benford Pavilion, and it will be February 19th, same day as the Daytona 500. I don't know the exact time. It's supposed to be announced this week. It should be announced by the time we release this. But it will be, I believe, free admission. But if you want to eat, you have to pay. It's $18 meal ticket, and it will be Checkered Flag Tavern doing the catering. So I'm sure
And
I've
I've heard
actually
that
never
place does
had. Yeah, I've heard
I've
it's
heard
good. I've
that
never
place
had it.
does really good food. So I haven't been there. It's one of those places I keep putting on my radar and I never go to. Checkered Flag Tavern is actually a very uh, this is probably one of the last racing bars in Indianapolis, and it has a lot of his storied history behind it. I don't know the owners. I don't know a lot about the place. I've heard about it for years. It's located off Washington Street, West Washington Street in Indianapolis. If you live around here, so if you have a chance, go to it. But yeah, and before I forget, or Aaron may have been mentioning this, if you have a college age child, uh,
Mhm.
or young man or woman who's looking for a little scholarship help, they are looking for applicants. So please, sign up, go to the website, I guess, and look through that. And I'm sure more information will become available about that as well. But that was something that Eleanor kind of emphasized when we spoke with her, and you'll hear it here shortly. But please do it. And I can tell you that one of my own nieces received a scholarship in 1999. She received hers on the racetrack at 16th Street Speedway with maybe 6 or 7 others. So, every little bit helps, and we're very thankful to them for that.
Absolutely, and I know they are having a silent auction. If anyone has anything to donate, I know you certainly can. If you go to their website or reach out to us, I can definitely help put you in contact. But other than that, and also thanks to McGilvery. So I believe our next McGilvery's live show. So we're not doing one in January due to a couple reasons with just this is a busy schedule during January for us. But in February, I think it's gonna be February 28th, I believe, whatever that Tuesday is, the last Tuesday in February. and we're still working out the guests for that. But thanks to McGilvery's, thanks to Top Gun Racing, Grand King Race Shops for sponsoring, helping us put that together. And yeah, as far as other racing news, first off, good friend of the show, Stingray Rob. I don't think it's been officially announced yet, but they said that it will be announced, I believe, this week that he will be driving for Dalecoin Racing. I don't know for sure if it's going to be a full season, but I'm guessing it's going to be for the 500 and maybe a few other races. So, love Stingray Rob, great guy, great guy to talk to. Obviously, we interviewed him, and yeah, happy for him. He's definitely understands what it takes to be successful in motorsports. He understands what makes motorsports, the wheel of motorsports, go around, and he's a very determined individual that definitely puts a lot of effort and time into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great. Another young driver is getting an opportunity. Good dude. If anybody doesn't know much about him, go back and listen to our episode. I think it's a really good indication what type of person he is. Some other racing news this past weekend was AJ Foyt's birthday. So happy, I think it was 88th birthday to Supertex. Chili Bowl was obviously this past week. Kevin Swindell, they built a brand new car, and Logan Seavey ended up the winner. So congratulations to the Swindells and Logan Seavey. Logan Seavey and Tanner Thorson had a great race until the track took rubber there at the very end, but it was very competitive, and it was the end of a competitive but very unique Chili Bowl. There was a horrible accident on, I believe, Wednesday night. Young driver was actually ejected from the car, but thankfully he is okay. He received cuts, facial cuts and contusions, but no lasting damage, it would appear. And not sure what happened, what if something failed, or driver error. I just don't know. But just thankful that he survived that. It's been a long time since something like that's happened. But all in all, another great Chili Bowl. And Santino Ferrucci ran out there. He actually looked pretty good. I don't know if he transferred at all on Saturday through any of the mains. I think he may have transferred through one main. Could be wrong about that. Alex Bowman had a very tough Chili Bowl. Spent a lot of money, a lot of torn up race cars. Not to, they were caught up in a lot of crashes. Kaylee Bryson, the first woman to make a Chili Bowl. She made it again this year. And then Jade Avedizian made the feature. So it's the first time two women have made the feature. Jade was the highest finishing female this year. And I believe she was rookie of the race. That being said, that was Kaylee Bryson's last drive for Keith Kunz Motorsports. I'm not sure exactly where she's going to end up in the midget world, but I'm sure she has something in the works. So, good, good for her. She's had a hell of a career there. And I would imagine, will move to a team who's very competitive and who will have chances to win. So you'll still see her up front in USAC national midget races.
Oh, absolutely. Very competitive. Other racing news, we were talking about IndyCar earlier. Takuma Sato got announced will be doing ovals only for Chip Ganassi Racing. Definitely is going to be a huge, maybe one of the biggest threats at the Indianapolis 500. I mean, he's a guy that obviously he could very easily be a 3-time winner now. So
yeah, absolutely.
He is very competitive there. He's almost always in the picture. In being in a Ganassi car now, we saw how competitive they were last year, obviously winning the race, and every single car was competitive pretty much a whole month. So they do not count Takuma Sato out. I tell you that much.
No, I tell you, I think we're probably the last stop on Takuma's career, and I think
It's a
that
good stop. It's a good
it's a good
stop.
stop. It's a good place to stop, and I'm sure his main focus is trying to win the 500, just like I'm sure Chips. I mean, he's going to run all the ovals, but I believe probably the only thing he cares about is trying to win another 500.
I mean,
And
yeah. I mean, personally, like if I'm Chip Ganassi, like I don't know of anyone available besides Takuma Sato that I would put in that car for the 500 for your best shot to win it.
right, I mean, he outdueled his best gun,
Yeah,
a couple years ago, and you
absolutely.
know, so you wonder if this would be the thing that helps push Scott to the win, or it'd be interesting because I think the last thing Scott Dixon wants to do is retire being a one-time Indy 500 winner. I think a guy who legitimately could have won four is looking at one right now, and I think that's probably the one thing that keeps him coming back every year.
Yeah, you're probably right. Absolutely. Um, only other thing I have, Travis Pastrana is going to be racing in Daytona 500 for 23 XI Racing. Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan's team really came out of left field. I don't think anyone really expected that. Pastrana obviously does have some NASCAR experience. I mean, a decent amount of NASCAR experience. He raced in Nationwide. I think it was a Nationwide series when he raced in it. I think now it's Xfinity, but he did 2 full seasons, I believe, in that. He does a couple truck races, 1 or 2 truck races every year. Obviously, he's like a 6-time rally champion. So he knows how to drive on 4 wheels. And so it'd be interesting. Obviously, he may have some issues making the field, but because it's down to 40 now, and I don't know how many cars will have to actually try to make the race, but it's going to be tough for him for sure. And one of those cars that's going to have to try to make the race will be Jimmy Johnson, I believe.
Yeah, because
So
I don't think they have champions divisions anymore. So
I think Jimmy
uh,
Johnson's probably going to make it one way or another. But
yeah, I think so too. Um, yeah, that was a shocker and a surprise. I'm not. I don't know. That it's just such a. I mean, it's not odd. I mean, it's their race team. They can do whatever they want with it. I just not sure why you'd put a guy with that little experience in a car. I'm sure there's a good chunk of money that comes along with that. Um, yeah, I
well,
don't
you know
know.
what it is. You know what the other sponsor is going to be on the car is Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's so much nuance to that type of racing that it looks incredibly easy and you can get yourself in trouble so quick.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting in the wrong lane, getting sucked into holes you don't want to get sucked into. You know, yeah, I mean, there's a plethora, and I'm sure, but I'm sure they'll work on it. I'm sure he's doing sim work. I don't think they even get any practice now. It used to be you had the practice and you had everything leading up to it, and I think you just go right out and qualify now, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be a little bit of a learning curve, but like we said, like I mean, he does have some experience racing in packs. I mean, he's raced at Daytona before in Ace of White car. I don't know what the. I mean, they're pretty similar. I mean, what's the speed difference or horsepower difference on those cars?
I mean, I don't. You know what? Any number I throw out there is not going to be accurate, so I'm not sure. But he's never driven anything like this new car.
True. Yeah, a
Um,
lot different.
and it's a completely different beast from the sounds of things. So who knows? I mean, and I'm not saying he won't do well. I'm really surprised. Like if you're out looking for drivers, that's who you found. So that it has to be as much a money deal as it is anything else. Because if you listen to all the teams, that's all they've been bitching about all off season's money.
And publicity. I mean, I'm sure obviously there's a lot
Sure.
of publicity involved with them as well.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But other than that, I don't really think there's a whole lot else. So like I said, next week, and actually we haven't said this, next week we'll be releasing our Rolex 24 preview show, which we've done. This will be second year in a row. Yeah, second year in a row. Last year we have Pete Halsmer and Mimo Gitley, which great show. This year, brought back one of our friends from the show, Mr. Chris Neifel, who was overall winner of a Rolex 24 in 2001. Very accomplished sports car driver. And then our other good friend of the show, Mr. Randy Lanier, which I did that one last week. Me and Scott did the one with Chris Neifel, but I did a short. It was like 15 minutes with Randy Lanier, and he talked a little bit about his experiences at Rolex 24. But I think it'll be a good show.
Oh yeah, no, it will be, and hopefully we'll see Pete here soon. Hopefully we'll see him in the month of May. I'd like to meet him in person. So yeah, no, it's just Rolex is coming up. Racing season is getting ready to get in full swing. USAC sprint cars head to dirt late miles and everything head down to Florida here within the next week, I think. And then USAC sprint cars are the beginning of February, and the whole thing just starts again. So not a lot of downtime these days. So it's just, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I guess Santino was saying that he's going to run the BC 39 midget race because it's after the end of the IndyCar series. So he's going to run it. He's not going to run anything during the season, but he is going to run after the season ends, and so he's going to run that. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. I just like seeing those guys come over and run, midgets and that sort of thing, just because it's he has and you listen to him talk, he has a great respect for it, and I think it's a good way to build a bridge between the past and the present and the future,
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about we need to get another one of our friends of the show to jump into midget as well at some point.
Yeah, we have talked about that. So, yeah, other than that, I really don't have anything.
Nope. Well, thanks everyone for listening and watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out our videos and other podcasts, and hope everyone has a great week.
There is one thing I wanted to say. Damon Gardner, one of the most accomplished open-wheel drivers, sprint car drivers of his era, called it quits at the Chili Bowl. So I wanted to give a salute to that guy. He was somebody who was a tenacious competitor. He spent quite a few years back here in the Midwest racing, but he spent a lot of his time out in California. He is a Chili Bowl winner as well. He won it with Daryl Saucer as crew chief. Sadly, Daryl has passed, and his celebration of life will be this Sunday at the USAC building in Speedway. So, it'd be nice to see his wife, and I know they stopped by and saw my mom when she was sick, and she really liked him, and so I just feel terrible that Daryl's gone, and it was nice to see Damian, say something nice about Daryl in his retirement. So, but hats off to the Demon. He had one hell of a career.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I hope everyone has a great week, and see everyone next week.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Our guest today is Eleanor Vogler, the wife of Don Vogler and mother of Rich Vogler, and the founder of the Rich Vogler Scholarship. Eleanor, it's an honor to have you on the podcast, and thank you so much for coming on. And I really hope I'm as witty and and just and as you are when I'm about 70. So you're a very impressive young lady.
91, if you consider that young. But, yeah, I'm grateful that you called me and offered me this opportunity to talk about Richard and the scholarship. By myself, I haven't done much, but I left that up to the boys.
Well, I would beg to differ. Growing up in a racing family myself, we competed against Rich and Don for many years. Um, I saw the things my mother did, um, so we could go racing, and I've said this from the very first episode. In my opinion, the mothers of racing, people in racing, are the ones who really drive the sport for the most part. A lot of people think it would be the fathers. I really truly believe it's the mothers, and it's an absolute honor for me to be able to talk to you today. And today, which is kind of ironic in the sense of the Chili Bowl starts tonight, and
Oh,
your son
oh,
Rich, yep, and your son Rich obviously won the very first one. And
yes, he did.
I just thought that was very the timing of all this working out was just kind of very interesting, and I'm glad you're on tonight.
Well, there's a story behind that win.
Well, please share it.
Well, first of all, he had raced at, here at Rockford in Illinois and had crashed. Not that he got hurt or anything, but then he had his airplane and he jumped on his airplane and he flew through a snowstorm to get to Tulsa to run the race. And I guess he didn't have time to hot lap or anything, and he just went out there and won the feature. Of course, at that time there was only, I think, a 40 lap or maybe 50 lap feature, not like now where there's 10 million races, and I think it's 100 laps now, isn't it?
No, it's 55. It's 55 laps
55.
now. Yeah, and it's in
well,
honor of a young man who passed away a few years ago, and and it sure holds. And like many things Rich did in his career, this race has turned into one of the absolute touchstone events in the sport. And although Rich didn't know it at the time, and he didn't really get to see it become that, it's very fitting that Rich won the first Chili Bowl.
Yeah, I know. Well, he's done a lot of first
Yes,
things,
he did.
but like the first time he's this double, winning the sprint and the midgets in the same year. Of course, there's others. He could have won the following year, or was that he could have won the championship, but then that's when he crashed and got hurt and was out for half a season. Yeah, so I mean, but that's the way racing goes.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly
either
how
up
it goes.
or down.
That's
Nothing
right.
in between.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have to agree with your mother. I think that the women involved. I'm sorry. Can you hear that?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, there's somebody calling me. I work for the Census Bureau. I've been working for them for over 20 years, but I do phone calling from home. So I got constant people calling me, But anyhow, I just agree with your mother that it is the women, the mothers, not the women, because a lot of the younger ones, they just enjoy the enjoyment, the excitement. But it's the mothers that are watching out for their sons and their husbands. So,
I absolutely agree. I couldn't agree more.
I got another story I could tell. At the Speedway, this one year, of course, Richard was always getting in the last minute. But this one year, they had a big to-do. It just happened that they were qualifying, and he made it on Mother's Day. And everybody was saying how they contributed to him doing so well, And I popped in, and it was because of their help that he made it, that he was there. And of course, I popped up and said, well, I'm the most important person here. I'm the one because he's here.
That's right.
Right.
If it wasn't for me, he wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot. He was a very aggressive child, and he grew into be aggressive and determined. That's all I can say. He's determined, and he had had a job to do, and he would do it. And
Rich was to compete against Rich. You had, I mean, anybody who beat Rich on a given night, you had to feel pretty good about it because he was trying to beat you at the shop. He was trying to beat you at the track, and like you said, he was completely determined at all times. There was no there for a guy, for at least from the outside looking in, there was no well, I'll settle for second. I'll settle for third.
no,
That just wasn't
no.
in his. That just wasn't how Rich thought.
Yeah, you don't settle. It's and he's not going to worry about. That's each segment. The qualify onto the end of the race is important.
Yep.
And his mind is always working on how to better everything. He won't, like you say, he won't settle for, okay, maybe it'll work. So if it's not working, he fixes it. And that
that is exactly right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, his
Now,
father, if it didn't work, and he'd fix it.
Right, and that's what I was going to ask. I mean, did he get that? Did he get that determination from Don, or was that something that he just kind of had into himself?
I think he got it both from Donald and I.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to start anything and not finish it. As you can see, I've been 30 years with this scholarship stuff.
Right.
I could have gave up a long time ago, but and Donald was the same thing. If he had something was broke, he'd work on it until it was fixed. I mean, I could tell a lot of stories about that too, racing with him.
Well, and before I forget, before we get too far along, we talked to Tom Bigelow earlier this year, and Tom Bigelow said, he said Don Vogler, he really felt like Don watched over him, when he felt like he and Don were very close, and he really, in a lot of ways, feel like Don really made a huge difference in his career, and then that's high praise.
I agree with that. But there's another story there. He's the one that told Richard that he could have started racing when he was 16. He managed to keep him out of a race car till he was 19. And then Bigelow told him, well, I started when I was 16. You could have went and started racing in Michigan for 16. Donald kept telling him he had to be 21,
Right.
And then Bigelow told him that you could start. But yeah, he was pretty special. Bigelow was pretty special to Donald. He did that with a couple of different ones, Bobby Carey, and he didn't hesitate to help people. And you might have thought that he wasn't that type of person, but he was.
Well, yeah, I mean, Don, obviously Don is not someone I know or knew. Rich, I was acquainted with, and obviously, like yourself, as many times as I saw you over the years, this is the first time we've actually talked. So I never really had a gauge of Don, and I liked hearing that from Tom because that gave you an insight into who he really was.
Everybody thought he was a mean guy or something, and that he done a lot of things intentionally or nothing, but he didn't do that. He wouldn't be pushed around. That was one thing. Nobody could push him around.
No.
And
he was a big man too.
Just whatever. It was because I mean, people picked on him because they just didn't see, they got the wrong impression.
Right.
I mean, in fact, one of the reasons I wanted to be in the pits, which of course I think Wanda,
Knipper?
Knipper. I think she was the first one in the speedway. I think I was the first one in the stock boxing. I signed up as a car owner, and they had to give me a pit pass, which was very reluctant. The boys didn't like it, and I was in there all. I mean, I used to sing Old Donald and work on the car and everything. So, I mean, I wasn't welcome. But anyhow, Richard wouldn't let me do that. He had his own thing.
Did Don, when did Don start racing? Was he a very young man when he started racing? I really don't know much about his career.
Well, he was around the speedway. I'm not the speedway, the shops, and mingling with people. But no, he didn't. That's another story. We got married. We had income tax. We had money. We were going to buy furniture. We ended up with a race car.
Of course you did.
So how did you and Don meet?
I was pregnant. I was pregnant. In fact, I was 8 months pregnant. His first race was in De Pere, Wisconsin. We went up there. June 4th was his birthday, and it was his first race. And he ended up underneath the fence. Car crashed. And I mean, there's a lot of interesting things. I keep saying I'm going to write a book, but it's he never. His first race car was in 1950 June. Bought it first, June 1950. So he never raced before that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, and he had some success as well. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
No, I was just going to ask how did you meet Don?
How did I meet him?
Yeah.
Well, we used to hang around it. Anyhow, right after the war. I mean, what did the guys do? They all worked in the taverns, the family taverns. That's where I met him. They were all riding motorcycles. That's all we did was ride motorcycles. So that was our dates and stuff. As I met him, and a couple of months later, we were married, and that that was the story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I wouldn't get on a motorcycle now if you paid me. And then the guys were nuts. These guys were veterans. They had just come from World War II. So
they weren't scared of anything.
They acted like they acted like as if, what the hell, I made it through the war.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we always talk about that's what we always talk about is how all those guys come through the war, and if you expected them to go live 9 to 5 lives after that wasn't going to happen.
Never. No, that didn't happen. Yeah. And whatever, but anyhow, Donald never was a 9 to 5 person. He always worked for himself.
Right.
He did the only time he actually worked for steel sales, first as a truck driver, and then when they found out what a good mechanic he was, they put him in as a mechanic. And the only thing is, he not only was a mechanic, he built a race car while he was in there with all their tubing. So that was his first race car that he built. Made a copy of the championship race car, a UARH race, midget.
Right.
But anyhow, he didn't stop running. I mean, he was always doing something, like Richard.
Right.
If there was a job to be done, he wouldn't stop until it was done. The same thing with his dad. So.
Right.
But
So, obviously, like we're talking about, Ritz did a lot of firsts. First Chili Bowl, racing a lot of races. I mean, was there a race that you enjoyed going to the most? Like, was there something that with the racing that you liked the most? Maybe it was Indy 500, Chili Bowl.
No, I don't like that 500. No. Well, the Chili Bowl, I wasn't there. And well, just I mean, they all were nice. IRP, Terre Haute. I mean, I enjoyed. The dirt racing always was interesting. Little Springfield.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Mazan. There wasn't really any particular track that I didn't like to watch them on.
Sure.
Now let me ask you something. I mean, obviously, for a long time, you had a husband and son who raced. Um, did you have the obviously all mothers, they want to protect their children and they want to defend their husbands and all that. Did you have any fear of it, or was it something that you just that's what they're going to do? This is what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's it. It was either join them or what? I mean, I wasn't really out to try it at first. I mean, what? We got a race car. We're gonna.
Right.
But I figured, I wasn't going to be like some of the wives, because a lot of the wives are always complaining. Sitting in the stands, sitting with the other wives. I said to myself, well, I'm not going to do that. Be miserable. Why should I be miserable? I'm just going to go with the flow,
Right.
And in fact, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the traveling. I didn't mind the working on it and everything. And I mean, when we first started racing, when the kids were small, we made a picnic out of it. We'd make it like we were camping and stuff. So, I mean, there was, it was part of our entertainment, instead of going to the show or going to the tavern or stuff like that, going out to fancy eating. That's what we did. So
yeah,
it was a family affair.
I think that's what's really hard for people who aren't in racing to understand. Because they're like, yeah, but you guys don't take vacations or anything. And you're like, well, we don't have to because we're together all the time.
Yeah, we're on vacation. Yeah.
Always on vacation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
yeah. Well, you asked about the fear and stuff. Naturally it comes up. How dangerous it is and what can happen. And I mean, if you get worried about something all the time, I mean, that's senseless. You worry when it happens, I mean,
right.
I mean, let's put it this way: if these guys worried about, going into the corner at almost 300 miles an hour, and they worried about, gee, am I got to get out of the corner? I don't think they'd be going into the corner. So,
right.
Just, I mean, and when it's Donald always says, when it's your time, it's your time. Walk out the front door and get hit by a train.
Yeah,
exactly. I agree with that. You mentioned earlier you didn't really care for the 500. What was it about the IndyCar stuff that you didn't like? Because Rich was actually, for the limited amount of time he got to run them, he was pretty good at them.
Oh yeah. He is he told everybody the reason he always qualified so late was so his grandmother could watch him on TV. But no, I was always worried about that. I was not. I was always worried.
Right.
They're going. As far as I was concerned, they were just. I mean, I should say that maybe Decline was one of the tracks I wasn't thrilled about.
Decline's
especially
fast.
with the midget.
Yeah,
Decline, Illinois. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, it's fast.
Mile. Yeah, it's a fast track. Yeah, and the first part is that you can't see them all the way around.
Right.
Yeah, and especially I did a lot of scoring races.
Sure.
Yeah, I said for the stock blocks. So I did the scoring. I did the scoring for when Richard and Dale were running the quarter midgets. And I did some scoring for USEC. But, DeClain, I didn't really like DeClain.
No, I understand that. The coins of all the miles is the fast one. I mean, that place can get your attention.
Yeah, it's fast and flat.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So, obviously when we kind of started, we were talking about the Rich Vogler scholarship, sorry. So talk a little bit about how that got started, and just talk a little bit about the scholarship.
Well, when Richard died, Valvoline went to USEC and said that they wanted to start a plaque or something, or a statue or something. They had $10,000 they were going to donate for something. And they decided to talk to Emily and then eventually to me. And we decided that the scholarship would be more in tune, because Richard really didn't like school. But he was into education. He thought that was important. Going to school and getting, get taught, or going to school and learn how to learn, so that when you go out in the world, you know how to gather the information that you're being given around the different things. So that's what it is. The USEC was in charge for about 3 years, and then they gave it to us to do, and it ended up in my pocket, my hands, and that's how it started. So, but it was, the first one was in 1991 at the Jonathan Bird's cafeteria, and Bill Marvel handled it through USEC. Well, Bill Marvel was part of the deal with getting it put together.
Yeah, Bill. Bill behind the scenes did a lot for a lot of people. He really put in. Man, he put in a lot of time. He just loved the sport. And unfortunately, like you, he lost his son to the sport.
I know. Yeah.
And it's just,
he helped us out quite a bit, as much as possible.
Sure.
It was, I mean, he can only do so much.
Right.
But,
well, I can tell you that one of my nieces benefited from that, and she accepted hers at 16th Street Speedway. So on behalf of her, thank you.
Yeah.
It does mean a lot.
Well, there's quite a few, and it's hard to remember everybody and to count. I don't know. I think it's up to 300 or something. I don't know. It's just,
oh wow.
My bookkeeping when I was in JC, I'm what they call retired or semi-retired. My daughter, Richard's sister Dale, and Nikki, his son, and Emily. Actually, Emily's doing some of the stuff too. They've taken over. The only thing I have is the Facebook thing that I had to go make a video for Facebook. For the 500, for asking for donations. Oh, but other than that, like Stephanie Throckmorton is in charge of this deal in February, and I'm just going down there. I'll be down there with my daughter, and the two boys are going to be down there too. Nick and Eric Vogler. So,
and I know that will be announced. I will be there.
Pardon?
Yes, I plan on being there. Yes,
I will do my best to be there. I absolutely do my best to be there.
So, and I will put the exact, I think it's somewhat been announced. I don't think it's been completely fully announced to everyone yet. But by the time we release this, it will be announced, and I will make sure I put all the details in the description of the video and the podcast. But it will be February 19th, which is same day as the Daytona 500, and I believe it'll be a 1 p.m. And the event will be held at Raceway Park in the Binford Pavilion. So we will start at 1 p.m. So yeah, I think and like I said, we'll release the details on that once I get all of them. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a good event. And it's really good to, kind of see that come back. They do a silent auction, correct?
Well, in my parties, I had silent and I had a regular live auctions.
Okay.
But I don't know whether they're going to do. I still have a jacket of Jeff Gordon's. It must have been when he first started racing NASCAR, because it's real small. It's small and it looks different.
Right.
Maybe I'll bring that. They might use that to auction off or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think people really like it. Sorry, go ahead.
It's funny you mentioned Jeff, because I felt like Jeff was the first real driver that Rich ran across in his career that really, people today don't understand how good Jeff Gordon was. Like and I really felt like Rich and Jeff, while two opposite people on the surface, they both had such a drive to win that I really felt like Jeff was kind of the first real driver that was kind of his, like, the opposite, the real competition for Rich. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, Richard, the first time he met him, he says I guess they were saying that Jeff was 13.
Yeah.
And Richard says, "You're out of the kidding. You're racing. You're 13. Your mother's letting you race at 13."
Hey, he must have talked to Tom Bigelow. He must have talked to Tom Bigelow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know after Richard died, there were times when I spoke to his Jeff's mother. Well, actually, the first time I really spoke to her, she said that he decided to go run NASCAR after Richard got killed. Right. I guess Richard was always talking about NASCAR. In fact, he was about Pocono the night before the Salem, and ran, and then he talked to somebody and they were going to give him a little better car. He had a ride set up for the next year.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was, I don't know.
Because he would qualified for Hillen at Pocono, right?
Oh yeah. He qualified there, and I think it was some kind of a candy person. It was a candy bar person or something, which was a pretty good deal. Not a first line, but
right,
a lot better, because this was like a friend with the stock car that was kind of a alley mechanic type thing. Was a low budget thing, but well, that didn't work out.
No.
Well, I want to say about the scholarship, please pass the word. We need applicants.
Okay.
I don't understand. Now, I mean, I wish we had more money coming in. We need a lot more money coming in. But we also need applicants. We don't want only 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. We'd like a little bit more, a variety, so that we have a chance to look at them all, and there's a lot that's needed, and we would like to give it to them. So, but anyhow, all right. Well, it was nice talking, and I'm sorry I'm getting hoarse, and I probably.
Well,
talk
Eleanor,
too much, but
oh no, Eleanor, I'd love to hear you talk for days. I will tell you, um, and I mean when I say I have so much respect for you because I have a general idea of what you've went through, and what it took, for you to just so everybody could go racing and all of that. And I just want to say, I really respect that. And I did have one last question. As the years have passed, we're at what 32 years since Rich has passed. Um, what would you like people to remember about Rich, besides the fact he was a great race car driver?
well, that he was talented, that he had morals, if you know what I mean. He didn't have
Uh-huh.
10 million, three or four wives, and that he had respect for authority, and he believed in God. He believed that if he crashed, he was either going to wake up in the hospital or he was going to wake up in heaven, or hoping for heaven. So, I mean, and he respected his mother. He respected elders. He respected women. So, I don't know, He might have, he was a determined person, and I don't know what else I could say about him, other than I loved him very much.
Sure.
So, yeah. And I was proud of him no matter what. So, that was it.
Well, thank you very much, Eleanor.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Eleanor.
Well, thank you for being patient with me, and I thank you for thinking about doing this and doing it. And I hope to see you the 19th.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.